take it away. It's all yours.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to get to do this. I don't know how many of you got to go to the summit last year. It was amazing. I tell people of all the educational conferences and conventions I've been to, it was easily the best. So much good information, and I hope we're going to give you some of that good information in this one, something you can walk away with, and we will have time. You can ask questions and time for you to give us some of your ideas. If you have great ideas that I didn't mention, maybe I've never thought of, then we would love to hear those. We've been doing research for years on the difference between a residential student and an online student. And some of the things that we know, I've listed some here, you can see those, but we know that when a student is trying to decide between going to school residentially or going online, there are a lot of different factors that come into play. So, work, if they have a full-time schedule, if there are schools local to them that they can get to, if some of them moving residentially is an option, sometimes it's not. Learning style is a big deal. Some students know that they will do better in an online environment than others. And the flip side of that coin is some students know that that's not something they can do, or they don't feel like it's something they can do well. And so they choose that residential environment instead. Personality and social confidence, all of these things, when we were doing some research on this about a year ago, one of the things that kept coming up that I had not thought about previously was this piece about social confidence and personality. Some students just are not comfortable with their peers, or some are not comfortable being away from their peers. But that came up a lot in this research about when they were choosing, it was a social thing. It was a lot of times much less about their major or what they wanted to study than it was about what activities were there and that sort of thing. So that's a big part of it as well. And a lot of students, we think maybe sometimes that they don't know, but they seem to be very aware of their own academic strengths and weaknesses. And so all of that comes into play. And when you're talking about an online student and being successful online, those online students who choose, let me back that up, because now we're going to get into how it's all changing now. But students who choose to go online typically are strong writers. They don't feel like they need someone there reminding them they have something coming up, something that's due. They don't need you to encourage them and get all that face-to-face type thing. They're sort of comfortable doing it on their own. And they just feel much less like they need someone there supporting them. They feel like they have it within themselves, they can get through on their own. Also, we know that they are much more willing to speak up. Now this one and the next point on there about accepting criticism, there's some interesting pieces there and some more research that can be done, because we don't know how much of that is environmentally based. Are they more willing to speak up and more able to accept criticism because they don't have peers there? That may be a big part of it. They can take it better. They can take criticism better because there's no one watching, no one to ask, hey, what'd you make on that? No one to look at their grade. And if they ask a question that they feel like is silly, there's no one to laugh or look at them or anything like that. So we know that these things are true, but we maybe don't know why they're true as much as we'd like to. They also think through their responses. And again, it may be because they have the freedom to do that because of that environment. But a residential student is much more likely to just pop off with a wrong answer than an online student is. Now, switching over to residential students, those students who choose to be residential, they are usually very tied up with their college identity. So if you ask them, who are you, or have them introduce themselves, they will say, I'm a sophomore at Liberty University, I'm majoring in communication, and I play on the basketball team. So it's all a part of who they are. This is not true for online students, but it's very much a part of the identity of a residential student. They want to talk, they want to talk it out. And those of you who are already teaching, sometimes if you let that class get away from you, they will have discussion till the cows come home. They'll talk and talk and talk. And they really love that. On the other side, if you try to get a discussion board going online, you get I like bread. I like bread too. That's kind of how discussion boards go online. So again, you can see those differences. The residential student is social. They want relational 101 type environments. So we've been spending a lot of time focusing on those two things. And now all of a sudden we're going to have to throw in a third piece. But if you ask these residential students about their experiences, what they like about their classes, what they like about school or don't like, you will hear this one word come up over and over and over again. Community. They'll say, I want to build community. I like the sense of community. Or those who aren't doing well sometimes will say, I just can't find my community. I can't find my... So when we started looking at how to make this new thing work that we're doing, we knew that this had to be a big piece of it, because it's the thing that these residential students are sort of craving is community. And how do you create that in an online environment? Because now we have this third type of student. We call them residentially remote, which is, you know, they're online students, but they don't want to be. They're residential students who are having to take all or some of their classes remotely. And they're already frustrated because it's not what they wanted. It's not what they signed up for. And they didn't choose this for all those reasons we listed in the beginning. They knew they needed a different kind of support. They knew they needed community. They knew they needed to see those professors face to face and have those relationships. And now that's taken away. Some of them, I've had lots of students over the years, and you probably have too, who are basically there because they play football. That's the only reason I came here. Or they got a certain scholarship, music, theater, whatever it is. That's why they're there. So when they're not there, when they can't do those things, at least not in the way they were doing them, they start saying, why am I even here? What is the purpose of this? Why do I want to do this? And I know I saw students all last semester dealing with the emotional and the mental parts, the isolation, and these residential students, a lot of them did not handle it well. So we come right back full around to community and how to do that. So what I'm going to focus on today is some ways that you can do that with feedback. And I've got 3 or 4 ideas I'm going to share with you. These are just some things that have worked for me. And again, we're going to have time at the end. If you have some ideas that have worked for you, we would probably all like to hear them, because we're all sort of in this together, trying to find ways to create community in an online environment. And it's difficult. So the first thing that I started doing a couple of years ago in my online classes, and that's worked really well at the end of last semester when we had to switch these students over, I found that if they could hear my voice on their feedback, that it was beneficial. And I think every learning management system, LMS, has this. I know Canvas, Blackboard, and Moodle do. If there are others, I'm sure they have this. And when you're in the grading, you know, it's just got the little audio box, and you can just leave them feedback. I do this a lot that way inside the learning management system. If they've posted an assignment there, and I'm looking at it, and I can just hit the audio feedback and leave it for them. And it still gives them that connection. There she is. That's her voice. You know, they feel, again, they can feel that interaction with you. Another option, and I noted it here, for me, it seems like it's just quicker and easier sometimes, especially if I have something in my hand that I'm grading, to pull up an audio recorder, which every computer has one that's built in. You don't have to pay for it. And I will leave feedback and just save it as their name in a Dropbox file or whatever. And then I go back and just upload them all at once into the LMS. And that seems like it saves time to me, because I'm not having to stop and grade, leave feedback, stop, grade. I can go through and do all my grading, leave them, and then upload them all at once. But either way, and I think Diksha can tell you if we're going to be able to share our PowerPoints, but I've added links to a lot of things on here. She's saying yes. Okay. So they're going to share the PowerPoint with you. I mean, I just Googled it. So you could also just Google it to find out how to do it. But there are links here for ways that I've actually tried and that have been successful. The next thing here is video feedback. This has been one of the better things that I have tried. I saw huge success with this with my students. This, when I first put this into my online classes, was the first semester that I had 5 of my online students come to campus to see me residentially because they just wanted to meet me. And that had never ever happened before. So it was something about seeing me and me interacting with them one-on-one that it changed that dynamic. It really made a difference. It was impactful for them. And so I'm going to show you an example in just a second of one of the things that I do, but a lot of times you could just leave video feedback for any assignment. But one of the things that I do is I grade papers live. And I think you can do it again on a lot of, well, there's a ton of different things, especially now everybody's coming out with new ways to do things electronically. I use Screencast-O-Matic. I've listed it here. There's a link for it. It's free. And in the video I'm about to show you, that's what I used there to do this. And so you can just pull up a document, whatever you're working on. So when you hit the record, it'll ask you if you want to do both a video and your screen, and I just click both, and then I can grade their paper live. So I'm going to give you, this is a couple of minutes long. I'm going to let you see what that kind of looks like. If I can get this to play.
Hey Chris, how are you? I hope that you are healthy and well and safe, and that all things Corona are staying away from you and everything's going well. I wanted to go over your latest paper with you for just a couple of minutes pretty quickly. You have done a tremendous job of improving. You've focused on the things that I asked you to focus on. Your content is significantly better, and you've really just kind of done a good job of bringing in the reader so that they kind of feel like they're there. The problems that you had today with this paper were more foundational. You had some grammatical kind of things going on. So I just wanted to walk through those with you pretty quickly. Here at the beginning, you had put PC Saints. And so just remember, I've corrected it here and spelled it out for you. Anytime you're going to use an abbreviation, then you need to start with spelling it out completely first before you go into that referring to it as with an abbreviated format. So make sure that first you tell people what it is, because everybody might not know what PC is. You've thrown them off from the first sentence. So make sure that you introduce any kind of name or title that you're going to be using in its full way before you refer to it with an abbreviation later. Again, you did well. Make sure that you're working.
Okay, so I won't make you watch the entire thing where I graded his paper, but you get the idea. Another thing that you're not going to see here at the end, but if you notice that I started out telling him he'd done well, and I wrapped it up with encouraging him to see the Writing Center, but again, bragging on him for what he had done well. And I think that that
hey,
is
Chris,
also,
how are you?
Oh, there we go. Sorry. Is positivity. When we're grading in person and we're able to just hand things out to them, we can give it to them. They're still able to look at us and talk to us, and we can say, hey, about their paper. They get all of those nonverbal things from your presence, from your facial expressions, whatever encouragement you're able to give them. When you're doing it electronically and you're just putting in the grade, it's not that way. If all we put in is negativity, which is what they're going to see, or maybe constructive criticism, but they're not going to see it that way. They're going to take it all as negativity most of the time. It's different. It's different because if all we do is grade and then give that back to them online, they don't get any of that positivity from us, and they become very, very discouraged. And so I just, as a reminder for myself and for you, that when we're not able to have that face-to-face, it's important for us to add something encouraging into the audio feedback, the video feedback, or on that paper where you normally would write a note that said good job or whatever you would do. To be able to say that, we have to change the way we're doing things just like they do, and you have to do that verbally or send them a note or something like that, so that they're still able to get that from you. This is another piece. I get a lot of questions about this, mainly because I teach communication and we do a ton of presentations and public speaking and that sort of thing. So the tendency that we have is to say, here's this presentation, you can just record it and upload it. And I think that that defeats part of our purpose here, or what we're trying to do, because I think it's very critical for them to still get those pieces where they have peers, where they have groups, where they're working together to do things. I try to break mine up into groups of 2 or 3 if I have to. Sometimes I'll do the whole class and just split up who's speaking, but that can be a time thing if you don't have enough time, enough classes for them to do that. So sometimes I will just split it up and make different times. They can be in the evening or whatever, and have students sign up when they can go, where you get 2 or 3 so that they are presenting to each other, but they still have to do these presentations live and in person with other people, and other people are there talking to them. And that, again, it gives them that sense of unity. We're all doing this together. Plus, it's important for them to be able to present to something besides their computer. They still have to learn those other skills. So that brings us all the way back around. And the last little thing that I wanted to mention to you, I did this a couple of years ago, and it was tremendous response. I was sort of blown away by the way the students responded to this. What I did then was I created a Facebook group for each one of my online classes. And I did it because it seemed like Blackboard I was using at the time was not necessarily the appropriate place for chit chat or for certain things. And I was trying to keep it where it was easy for them to navigate, but I still wanted a place where they could see my personality, where I could see their personality, where they could talk to each other. And so I created this, and it took a little bit of nudging to get them used to it. And of course, some of them don't have Facebook because that's the way their generation is. But they were willing to get it, most of them that didn't have it. And it turned out to be tremendous. They ask each other questions, which saves the professor some time and effort and energy as well, because they'll post, they'll answer each other, they'll start talking to each other. And it really got to the point where I just was able to kind of sit back and watch them building community and doing it on their own, because they crave it, they want it, they're going to do it. Last semester, we switched, our school and department went to Microsoft Teams. And so I thought, well, I'm going to not use Facebook, and I'm going to try Teams this time and see if it works the same. And it did. And it was good. A lot of students, I probably had a dozen students say to me last semester, I think Teams like saved me from total isolation, that sort of thing. There are tons of other ones that you can use that I think are just as good. These are the only 2 that I've tried, but it was good in creating that sense of unity for them, where they were able to talk to each other and help each other. And again, I didn't even have to post that much. I'd post a funny, I'd post, something motivational or whatever, something to make them laugh sometimes. But for the most part, they were carrying on. I had to turn off my notifications because I was getting hundreds of them where they were just talking to each other. And it was good to see. And I think it did really make them feel better in terms of not feeling as isolated as they had before. So I'm going to wrap up with this one last little thing, which is just to be authentic. We can see a lot of great ideas when we're on these conferences and things, and you think, I would never talk to my student the way she was talking to that student or whatever. And that's okay. I think the thing is for them to know you, know you're there, know who you are. And so whatever you're comfortable with, the fact that you're here and you're doing this whole summit and you're working on it means that you're passionate about what you do. And as long as they're able to see that, I think that's the key. And whatever way best fits your style and your personality, I think just letting them know that you're there and letting them kind of get to know you is the key. So that's it for me. But we do have some questions. So Diksha's been sending me a few things here to look at. And the first one, Christy had asked about trying to make them feel comfortable. And again, I think that's really what most of these things are about, just letting them know that, giving them a place where other students can talk with them, where they can talk with each other, where they can connect with students just in their class, and that you're there as well. And Screencast-O-Matic is awesome. It is free and it is ridiculously easy to use, which is why it was the first one that I ever used when I started teaching online, and I still use it because it's just simple. And I have a lot of professors in my department who had never taught online until March of 2020. And so when you're trying to start from scratch, I think they found it really simple and were very appreciative to do. Let's see. Deeksha, if you see something I'm missing, just shout it out.
There's a question from Nancy. Did you post the Microsoft Teams as a link in your Blackboard course?
Yes. Yes, I did. So I posted it, and then I would share it again sometimes. And if I knew that there were some students who weren't participating, you know, I posted again and say, hey, you're missing out on some great conversation. Here's the link where your friends are chatting, and post it again. A couple of them I saw that, you know, weren't participating. I shot them an email. I sent one a video message and just, you know, my face saying, hey, you're not on Teams, everybody misses you, or whatever. Again, just trying to reinforce. And you're going to have some who are not going to. And that's the way it is. But I do put that link in several times actually and share it. And compatible with Blackboard. Diana, I think, are you talking about Screencast-O-Matic? If you are, it just downloads. I downloaded, well, the one I just showed you today, I downloaded from to Dropbox. It just saves it as a video file, and it'll and then you go into Blackboard or whatever your LMS is and just upload a video, and it'll go straight in. I've never had any trouble converting. When we say it's easy, I mean, it's easy. I've never had any kind of trouble doing anything with it. Super simple.
There are a couple of questions around the idea of peer-to-peer feedback and peer reviews. So both Brian and Jody have asked around that. Like, do you have ideas about some options on doing peer-to-peer feedback on presentations? And then how do you do peer reviews? How do you get them to say more than what you have shared already?
Yeah, so if I don't answer it, repost it a different way and I'll try again. But one of the things that worked really well for us too, we've done them sort of in some of the Course Hero things, and I'm sure you've all been a part of 800 Zoom meetings or whatever, where they put you in the breakout sessions. I had several professors in my department this semester who that's what they did in almost every class. A lot of their classes, the large ones, they did it inside Microsoft Teams. But again, it's very easy to do in Teams, but I think you could do it in other places too. They had inside their team, one team for a class, inside of there you can make groups, and they had them assigned to groups. So it was almost like doing the breakout sessions. So they go into their own groups. They can do it all at the same time. And that's another way, you go back to like the presentations and that sort of thing, to get through more in a day or in a class period if you break them up and have 5 going at once in the different groups. And I'm not sure about the question about peer reviews and that sort of thing. If we're talking about feedback, and I require mine, I always tell them it's a sandwich. They have to say something that the student did well, something that needs improvement, and something else they did well. And it forces them, one, not to just be negative. It also forces them to get a little bit of meat in there. So to really dig in a little bit more, makes their responses a little lengthier, that sort of thing.
There's a question from Tina. Do you have a link specifically to the writing feedback sample you shared on your slides?
Do I have what? I'm sorry.
Do you have a link specifically to the writing feedback sample you shared in your presentation?
I don't, but I can share one. That will be simple. I'll actually add it to this PowerPoint as soon as we're done here. Deeksha, and send it back to you. So when you share it, it'll be on there.
Okay. There's a lot of comments coming in, Mallory. Great information, Dr. Mallory. Thank you. Just for everybody's information, we are recording this presentation, so you will have access to the recording after the event. And then Dr. Mallory has offered to share her presentation as well. So we will make that available too. We're getting a comment, oh, I like the sandwich, good idea. People are sending lots of positive feedback your way. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. And
there's a
Jody, I just saw yours. I'm kind of trying to scroll through too about the peer reviews. And again, that's sandwich because they do want to just say, hey, that was great, you did great. So I require 3 pieces to every one of those reviews. And I see a lot of people posting different ideas. So SurveyMonkey and Slack, and I see a lot of other, and those are terrific because there are tons. There's so many different platforms now, and I think there's a new one coming out every day. And Laurie asked about the presentation. It will be available. Deeksha said she's going to share it with everyone. Yes, Nancy, I just uploaded it into the gradebook when it has a little place where you can upload a file or whatever as if you were returning theirs. I just upload it right there and they get to see it, and it works really well.
Brian has a question. Do you have students turn in something to you to get credit for their peer feedback?
Yes. So a lot of times there's a couple of different ways I do it. Sometimes I just have them send it to me on a document, or I'll tell them, you have to do 3 different feedback. And so then I'll take them and copy and paste it to the student, make each student their own document. So all 5 students that reviewed theirs, I take those, put them on one. It's a little time consuming and funky. And so another thing that I have learned to do, I despise discussion boards with like every fiber of my being. I hate them so much. But I found this one really useful thing to do with them, which is to have each student post their name and their topic. And then I have students do their peer reviews as their replies. And so that way it's graded because they get points as if it was a discussion board. It's super easy to grade and they're all there together, and it keeps me from having to copy and paste into 20 different documents. So that's the easiest way I found to do peer reviews, is to make them a discussion board when you're talking about remote learning.
Okay. And more compliments coming in. Great idea with the discussion board. Wonderful presentation. There are more resources that are being shared in the chat, so people can review that. I'm going up a little bit. There was a question if you have an answer for international students who may not have access to Facebook or Google. Have you explored an alternative platform?
Yeah, I have gone back and forth. I have not run into any students who could not get Facebook. So I don't really know about that. I'm sure there are some, but I haven't experienced that myself. I would think it would be easier than Microsoft Teams, maybe not. I actually don't know. I don't know what would be easier. But I feel like if you knew that was coming in advance, if you know that you have a great deal of students from a certain area that's an issue for, I would just use a different platform, whatever. If you can find one that works, I would just use that for everybody. If you knew in enough advance to set it up that way, then that would be best. But I haven't run into that, so I don't really have a good answer. Sorry.
Yeah, I think they're saying that we know that in certain parts of the world there are restrictions, but someone's responding saying discussion boards is great for video feedback. So.
Yeah, and I see their comment, Annie posted about the Chinese students. We have a lot. We have a actually really large Chinese community here at Liberty. But I had my first introduction to them in spring when we were on Microsoft Teams, and everybody that's in school here gets Microsoft as a part of their enrollment or whatever. Office 365 comes with it. So we were able to do it on Teams this time as an alternative to Facebook. So I didn't try the Facebook, so I don't know, but they were able to use Teams, which worked well. It worked the same way.
Nice. There's a question from Kristen. What what is the difference? I don't know, which are the difference that you see between feedback and critique? Or I guess, what is the difference between feedback and critique?
I don't know what I would say the difference is. Maybe we use the words interchangeably, but I would think that critique would be much more focused on what areas that need improvement, and feedback in my mind is a little more general. When you're talking about peer feedback, when I'm doing it, when I'm giving feedback or critique, it's basically the same thing, because I'm going to try to give some positive encouragement both ways, and I'm going to try to nail them to the wall and all the stuff that they did wrong at the same time. So either way, whatever you call it, they're going to get probably the same thing from me.
Okay.
Maybe there should be a bigger difference, but I think I use them interchangeably.
Okay. Lilia has a question. If you create a Facebook group at the beginning of the semester, does it mean that students work in the same group throughout the semester? And then there's a follow-up question there. Also, could you please give examples of projects that are done in these groups?
Yeah, so when I set Facebook up, yes, I set it up before the semester starts. I make one Facebook group for each of my classes so that they're able to have their peers, their class. It's like meeting together. I don't actually use them for classwork very often. They will work themselves. They will post their things that they're working on. They'll post pieces and ask friends to edit, and I just pretend like I don't see it because they're not asking me, which is what the point. We're trying to get them to have that time to communicate with each other and work together and to build that camaraderie that normally they would do in a classroom. And so as much as we can get it close to that, that's what I'm shooting for. So it's not, I don't assign projects there, but yes, that's correct. I just do one per class in Facebook. Now, what we were saying about multiples was that in teams, a lot of the professors did have like breakout rooms, and so they had one team per class, and then they created separate groups where students could present any kind of group work. They really used those every day. In every class session, they would automatically come into class, and just as if they were putting them into small groups in a classroom, he would talk to them for a few minutes, go over whatever he needed to go over, talk about assignments that were due, and then send them into their breakout groups, their small groups. So I hope I answered that.
I think so.
Is that it?
Yeah, I think we're getting, there's some more suggestions coming in from people about tools that they're using.
Oh, and I do see when they said one of the things they use in peer reviews is what would you have done differently? And so that is a good question to actually have them put a little more thought into it and give you a real response about what was needed, what was missing, what would you have done differently. That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, looks like we got it. Do you see anything else coming in?
I'm just perusing through. We have a couple of more minutes. If there are any final questions, we could take them right now. Again, lots of positive comments, great ideas. I will be trying. Thank you. Thank you so much. Great material. Oh, I'm seeing a couple of questions. Thank you. This was good information presented. I require a reflection assignment that forces. There's an idea here that Dr. Gonzalez wanted to share. I require a reflection assignment that forces students to think about, 1, the time and effort they put into an assignment/lesson, 2, their strengths and weaknesses, 3, how might they have enhanced their performance, and 4, how the assignment lesson content is relevant to them.
That's awesome too.
Yeah.
And I see a question here from I don't want to say it, I'm going to say it wrong, and it's beautiful, and I don't want to mess it up. But it says, how long does it take you to create one feedback video? Really, it depends. There's a couple of ways. I was going to mention this earlier, so I'm glad you asked this question. There are a couple of ways to do that. So you can either pull it up and start recording, and literally you're grading it from scratch. So you're kind of, going through it. I've done that, and there's a lot of me sitting there going, as I'm reading through, it's a lot of dull time. So I sort of have switched over, and I don't do that anymore. I kind of read through it once. And like on the example that you saw, I think I'm going to see if I can share it again. I go through and I'll highlight the things that I know need to be changed. Don't you love this? This is great, the way these things freeze, or you're just all the time. So it's easier then, and it doesn't take long. So maybe 5 minutes to go through. Now, if it's really bad, it might take longer. And if it's excellent, it's not going to take you but a few seconds. So it really depends on the quality of the paper, how long it's going to take you. But I will go ahead and go through it and highlight all the things that needed to be changed, edited, corrected, or whatever. So then when I go through, it's easy, like you can see here, to just say, okay, so here you need to do this here, and you can kind of go through and you can do it pretty quickly. So it really depends, probably 2 to 5 minutes on average, maybe. Let's see.
Yeah, I think we're, did you want to take a look again? Oh. More thank yous coming in. Very informative and useful.
There was something you could use, and I would say this: my when you get the presentation sent out to you, my email is on the front. If you have questions, if there's something I need to send you or something you didn't get, I'm more than happy to answer, or we can just chat. So if you need anything I can do, if you need questions, feel free to reach out. All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank y'all for coming and sticking with us, and all your great comments and support and questions. This was awesome.
Thank you, Dr. Mallory, for a wonderful, wonderful session.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
We will be sending out an email to all attendees after the Education Summit, giving access to all the recordings and speaker presentations that we get in.
Awesome. Great. So you're going to send them all out? Is that what you said, Diksha? I missed part of that.
I might have you, if we can connect, but maybe Richard can help you upload this to your profile, and that way it'll be easier for people to access it. Yeah.
That'll be great. I'll do that. I'll make myself a note and try to do that. If I can't figure it out, I'll yell.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. Bye, Diana. Thank y'all.
Thank you, everyone.
That was great. And Diksha, if someone missed it, will there be a link where they can go back and watch it?
Yeah, so we're recording the presentations. We will have to house them on the site, and then as soon as it's up, I will make sure that you get a link to it, and then that way you can share it with anybody specifically, and then we'll share it out with all the attendees.
Oh, great. So you'll let me know when that's available. That'd be perfect. Awesome. And I will try to get this uploaded to my profile. I can't do it. I'm gonna make myself a note. Let me get a sticky note.
Over right here. Richard can definitely help with that.
Okay, upload. Okay, I got it. All right. Thank you so much.
Could I ask a quick question verbally? Okay, I was the one that was talking about the discussion board, using it for peer feedback.
Yes.
Just a quick question. Do you put their name and topic in and then have other students that are the evaluations reply to that? Or does the student themselves have to put it in? I'm asking because I'd like to control it myself so I know that the names and the topics are up for the peer evaluators, rather than rely on the students to remember to do that.
Yep. So one thing, so you can do it a couple of ways. I've tried it a couple of ways and it'll work. One thing is that if the discussion board is worth points, which it would be, so if each student had to do 3 replies, 3 peer evaluations, and they're 5 points each or whatever it is. So then I would make the whole thing worth like 25 points or 20 points. So 5 of those points are for them posting their original thing. Also,
their name and topic.
And if I when you start grading, you're going to see that they didn't have one. And so then they also they'll end up with a 0. I give them a 0 for the whole discussion board if they didn't post.
They didn't post, you mean they didn't post their own name and topic?
Correct. Even if they did the peer evaluations, if they didn't post theirs, they get a 0.
Okay.
You could do it either way. You can either make it just the whole thing's worth 20 points. So 5 for your initial post and then 5 for each of your 3 peer evaluations. Or I've done it where you get a 0 if you don't post yours. The other thing is that I make their initial post due like the week before.
Okay.
So then I have time to ride them or remind them or go in and create it myself if that, if you wanted to do it that way for those who don't do it. And
I was just wondering when the evaluators do the reply, if a student has to create that question themselves for them to somehow get signaled. I don't know if they get, I haven't really used the discussion board. So, and we use Canvas.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know if, if they've created their own, or if I create their name and topic, when the replies happen, do they get notified that a reply has happened to it because they're the ones that created?
Yeah, so I know if they create it, they get notified. I don't know. I would think they probably wouldn't if you created it.
Yeah, I would probably get notified for all of them.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. And so it just works better if they do it.
Yeah, okay.
And maybe if you got them to do it that like a week early, like I would say, or several days or whatever ahead of time, then that would give you that opportunity to remind or whatever before, instead of it's just all due on the same day. And that gives you a little bit of time to kind of manage that a little better and make sure everybody has one posted.
And let them know they've got points already for their critique or their evaluation.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and if you make that initial post due ahead of time and worth points, then as soon as the 0 hits, they usually self-correct.
Right.
So, they'll usually go in and do it real quick. And again, if you gave them some leeway there, it's still probably in time before their presentation, so their peer evaluations can still go through.
Right. I love that idea because I got to tell you, I was sitting here debating on the nightmare of trying to collect multiple evaluations from each one and then trying to coordinate, like you were talking about copying and pasting, and that sounds like a nightmare to me.
It is. So. I know it is. It's and a lot of people just quit doing peer evaluations, but that's another way to make sure that they're actually watching. So,
Well, I also thought about the idea of doing one-on-ones where I had them doing more, because I'm teaching a public speaking class. So
me too.
So, I was thinking about also maybe for a speech for having them partner them up and critique each other's in a more detailed way. It's only one person, and then using some of the breakout rooms to actually have them meet up with that person to tell them in person about what they're doing. And
oh yeah, I love that too. Feedback. I love that idea too. Yeah, and I think we're working a lot with that too, as far as getting them into at least small groups, 3 or 4, where they can present and then kind of talk to each other about, what could you have done differently? And they seem to really open up and be a lot more honest but kind in those small groups where they will say, okay, so here's something you could do. Here's a piece, so.
I like that idea too, because in those small groups, they're not hearing from just one person, but even if they're not involved with a certain evaluation going back and forth, they still hear the types of comments that are being made and can maybe reflect on their own quality level on those particular aspects.
Right. Yep. I agree.
Mhm.
Yeah. Good. Thank you so much for the information.
Thank you, Brian.
I hope it works.
Yeah. Yeah. Good, and good luck to you.
You
with all the
too.
upcoming
You too.
semester.
It's going to be fun.
Well, I'll keep that thought.
It's going to be an adventure. How about that?
Okay, I like that better. Adventure. It will be an adventure.
It will indeed.
Enjoy the rest of the summit, and good luck to you, and be safe this semester. I know
You
we're
as well.
all trying to get through this.
Yes, we are. We'll make it together.
Yeah.
Thank
Have
you.
a wonderful
Thank you
day.
for coming. You too.
Okay.
All right, Diksha, are we ready to
All
leave
right.
here? Are we?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. You're amazing.
Thank you again so much. I'll follow up with you in a couple of days with an email. Try to do it sooner than later. But just
I understand.
but I'm so glad that we got to do this, and it was wonderful. Thank you
So much. Thank
Okay.
you. I appreciate you. I'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.
Yes. Bye.